you're ready to talk about your Chargers.
Oh, yeah. Pass that one over here to me. So, God.
Go. Let it rip. Shawne,
You
let it rip.
The most frustrating part is that we all know what the narrative is going to be, right? About Justin Herbert, about this team. And look, he didn't have his greatest performance. In fact, probably his worst performance of the entire year. Just so happened to happen on the biggest stage. But let's not forget this. This team only won 5 games last year. They only won 5 games. And everyone said before Jim Harbaugh came in there that it was going to be at least 2 or 3 years before they get going again. They got into the playoffs with a team trying to figure things out, first year head coach, and no one expected them to be there. And so I want to say that, but overall, man, without kicking the Chargers too much, you got to give credit to DeMeco Ryans and that team. They're like playing with his personality. You can see after every change of possession, interception, or forced fumble, these guys running over to the sideline, celebrating. That personality, that character of DeMeco Ryans is passed down through that team, and they're playing great football right now. So without kicking the Chargers down too much and how bad they played in certain situations, I think people are not giving credit to Houston and that team and that defense especially.
I think they're getting a lot of 4 interceptions is crazy. I don't know what to make of Justin Herbert. You know how I feel about the Chargers. Yeah. What do you make of Justin? You're saying, oh, it just happened. I just spilled my champagne. I just fumbled. You're saying that it happened. It just so you literally said it just so happens under these bright lights. He only has 2 playoff games, both not great, both memorably not great, both 2 of his worst performances. And it's not the coaching. Jim Harbaugh's doing everything he can. What needs to change with or for Herbert?
You know, for one, Herbert, when he gets on the main stage, he knows that all the credit is going to go to him, and all the people jumping in your back is going to go to him as well. So he has to perform better. And you would hope that some of these throws, a couple easy throws too, that he just threw too high, and it was bad pass and things like simple throws. You got to make those. But ultimately, you're going to throw a pick or 2 against a team like this. I mean, they had a great defensive plan.
Crazy.
And they came out second half, man. They were running stunts. Will Anderson, it's a funny story about Will Anderson. Matt Zentz, who was a writer for the University of Maryland football team, went down to Alabama. He was a writer for Alabama. He called me one day, Will's freshman year at Alabama, and said, you got to watch this kid. He reminds me a lot about you. He's a little light right now, but this guy could go. So since his freshman year at Alabama, I've been watching him close, just been a big fan, and they let him rip yesterday. I mean, him coming right here off the sideline, off the side of it when nobody blocked me. All of these are defensive schemes to create one-on-ones across the board, and sometimes a guy goes free. You gotta adjust to those things, man. Your best player or one of the best players on defense can't run free like that. You'll never win football games.
What was more impressive to you? Like, you're clearly a huge fan of DeMeco Ryans. He said, he was obsessed with his secondary. He was saying all these great things about his pass rush, and you're talking about Anderson, Danielle Hunter as well. What was more impressive to you, and why could it be effective against their next opponent?
Well, when you're playing that level of defense, you're going to create some turnovers. You're giving, C.J. Stroud and them another opportunity.
Chiefs do not turn the ball over. They do not. That's one thing they do not do.
They don't do that. So they're going to need a pick or 2 or some kind of way to turn the ball over. And like I said, I don't think enough credit is going to the other side of the ball. Like C.J. Stroud, I mean, he when it mattered, either when he's running the ball for a first down, or doing something to put those guys. The one scramble they had him in that 3rd and long situation, he delivered the ball down the field, and they got to you can't let those things happen and expect to win football games. So they had an opportunity yesterday, and I thought after the first half that they were going to come out the second half, readjust, and get back to it, because a few times this year has happened. But they just didn't readjust the second half.
What could they have readjusted? Like, I'm trying to think. Like, I've seen you at games. I know how you're so close to the team. What did you want them to adjust? What made Shawne Merriman scream and be upset the most about the performance?
I think the biggest thing for me is that you got to start throwing the ball down the field a little bit more to pose a threat. And I'm not saying that these guys are going to go out and make a whole lot of plays down the field, but if you keep throwing these, shorter balls, and you're not completing something, just to make the defense think that you have the capabilities of going down the field. They just never really posed a threat like that. And also, I hate to complain about the refs and everything else, man. I thought Derwin James, I thought that was a pick. I thought that was interception, which would have been a game-changing play for the Chargers. But overall, you got to make these certain plays by Justin Herbert, and you got to have a deep threat down the field. I think that's something that they're going to have to look at this offseason and get a big play. Just somebody to stretch the field, because you can't continue to run the football like that and don't have a deep threat down the field. At least you're going to make a play like that.
Quentin Johnston had this huge game, and then I was watching yesterday, that should be his role. 5 targets, couldn't pull one in. That's sort of the issue. So I feel like they did take some shots downfield as I was watching it as a fan, and they just sort of weren't able to connect. And then there's just the secondary, which maybe is a problem for Patrick Mahomes, who knows how to work out. 5 PBUs from Stingley, along with those 2 interceptions. It was that first interception by Herbert where I was like, this game, that just changed, obviously, everything. It changed everything for me down the stretch, and they could not adjust in the second half. It's a great point by you. Am I going to live in a world where I have to say bye to Khalil Mack? He's talking about his future in the locker room. Let's take a listen to what he had to say.
Speak on a definitive decision in the terms of what I'm going to do, because I don't know if I'm going to play football moving forward. So there's some things I got to talk through with my wife, and spend some time with my kids and try not to make a rash decision after a loss. And try not to be emotional through this process and trying to think a little more clearly. And that's going to take time.
What am I supposed to think about this?
Yeah, so look, he has a Hall of Fame career. If he stopped playing, he's done. He's a guy that's going to be up for the Hall of Fame, and it is a very tough decision. The only thing I would tell Khalil Mack, to be honest, is make sure you're sure being done, because you can't go back.
Ooh.
Right? It's once you make that decision, it's done forever. In my opinion, I think he's playing too high level of football to stop playing right now, especially if his body feels good. Because Kate, one of the things you want to do, like year, 2 years, 3 years down the road, you don't want to have that feeling sitting somewhere on the couch and saying, "Man, I could have came back for another year," right? You just don't want that feeling. So, if he was on a downhill, playing wise, or he was banged up, or his body just couldn't hold up anymore, then yeah, you got to be done with the game. But in my opinion, he's playing too high level of football. He's still very impactful. And regardless of whatever he does, he's going to be a Hall of Fame guy.